When the Henderson family returned from their camping trip, something was different. They looked the same, they sounded the same. But my daughter refused to go near them, and she kept whispering, "That's not Jacob anymore." We'd been neighbors with the Hendersons for 5 years before they disappeared. They lived in the gray colonial across the street. Mark and Jennifer, and their 3 kids, Jacob, who was 8, little Lily, who was 6, and baby Ethan, just 18 months old. They were the kind of family you'd see in a cereal commercial, perfect, happy, the kind of family that made you believe suburbia was actually a nice place to raise kids. My daughter, Sophie, was 7. She and Jacob were inseparable, riding bikes, playing in the sprinklers, building elaborate fairy houses in our backyard. Jennifer and I would drink coffee on my porch while the kids played, talking about nothing and everything the way neighborhood moms do. It was Jennifer who told me about the camping trip. Mark found this amazing spot, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. Some old campground his grandfather used to take him to. No cell service, no other people, just us and nature. The kids are going to love it. How long will you be gone? Just a week. We leave Saturday. Sophie cried when she found out Jacob would be gone for 7 whole days. 7 days is an eternity when you're 7 years old. "I'll miss you too," Jacob told her, solemn as a little adult, "but I'll bring you back something cool." I promise. That was the last normal conversation any of us had with the Hendersons. They left on Saturday morning, their SUV packed with camping gear, the kids waving from the back window. I remember thinking how happy they looked, how perfect. They were supposed to come back the following Saturday. They came back on Friday. I noticed their SUV in the driveway when I got home from work. It was strange they'd planned to stay the full week, and Jennifer had been so excited about it. I thought maybe one of the kids had gotten sick, or the weather had been bad. I texted Jennifer, "You're back early, everything okay?" No response. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. That evening, Sophie wanted to go see if Jacob could play. I walked her across the street and rang the doorbell. Mark answered. He looked tired. His skin had an odd gray pallor, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He'd lost weight, I thought. His clothes hung loose on his frame. "Hey, Mark, you guys okay?" Jennifer said you'd be gone until tomorrow. He stared at me for a long moment, like he was trying to remember who I was. "We came back early," he finally said. His voice sounded flat, emotionless. "Can Jacob play?" Sophie asked, peeking around my legs. Mark's head turned slowly toward her, too slowly, like his neck was rusty. When he looked at Sophie, something in his expression made me want to pull my daughter back, to get her away from him. "Jacob's tired," he said, "from the trip. Maybe tomorrow." I offered, already backing away. "Maybe." He closed the door without saying goodbye. Sophie was quiet on the walk back home. When we got inside, she went straight to her room without being asked. I found her 20 minutes later, sitting on her bed, staring out the window at the Henderson house. "Mama," she said quietly, "Mr. Henderson looked wrong. He was probably just tired, sweetie. No." She turned to look at me, and her eyes were serious in that unsettling way kids' eyes sometimes get when they see something adults miss. "He looked wrong, like ... like when you put a Halloween mask on, but you can see the real face underneath through the eyes." I laughed it off. Told her she was being silly, but that night, I found myself watching the Henderson house from my bedroom window. Every light in the house was on, every single one, and I could see shapes moving past the window, slow, jerky movements that didn't look quite right. The next morning, I saw Jennifer getting the mail. I called out to her from my porch. She turned toward me, and I felt my smile freeze. She looked like she'd aged 10 years. Her hair, which had been a glossy brown, was streaked with gray. Her skin had the same pallor as Mark's, and she moved stiffly, like her joints hurt. "Jennifer, are you feeling okay?" She stared at me with blank eyes. "We're fine. The trip was fine." "Everything is fine." Her voice was monotone, rehearsed. like she was reading from a script. "Do you want to come over for coffee later? You look like you could use a no." The word came out too sharp, too quick. Then, softer, "No, thank you. We're very tired." From the trip, she turned and walked back into her house with those same stiff, jerky movements. Over the next few days, things got stranger. The Henderson kids didn't come outside to play. I'd see them sometimes standing at the windows, perfectly still for hours. Once, I saw little Lily standing in their backyard at midnight, just standing there in her pajamas, staring at our house. Sophie refused to go near their property. "They're wrong, Mama," she kept saying, all of them. They came back wrong. I started noticing other things. The Hendersons never seemed to eat their garbage can stayed empty week after week. Their grass grew wild and unkempt, even though Mark had always been meticulous about the lawn. And the smell a weird, sweet rot smell that drifted from their house when the wind blew the right way. But the worst thing was the synchronicity. I started noticing it about 2 weeks after they'd returned. The Hendersons moved in unison. If Mark walked from the living room to the kitchen, Jennifer would move at exactly the same time, in exactly the same way. The kids too, like puppets on the same strings. And they were always watching our house. I'd catch them standing at their windows at all hours day and night just watching. All 5 of them, perfectly still, their faces blank and pale. My husband, David, thought I was being paranoid. They'd probably had a rough camping trip, he said. Maybe someone got hurt, or they had a scare. Give them space, but Sophie wouldn't let it go. Jacob came to my window last night. She told me one morning my blood went cold. What? He was standing in the backyard. He tapped on my window. Her voice was small, frightened. But Mama, it wasn't really Jacob. It was wearing Jacob like a costume. Sophie, you had a nightmare, a no. She grabbed my hand, her eyes wide and desperate. I saw it, Mama. Its face didn't move right when it talked. And its eyes, Jacob's eyes are blue, but these eyes were black. All black. I checked her window. We're on the 2nd floor. There's no way anyone could reach it without a ladder. But there were handprints on the glass, small handprints. That night, I called the police for a welfare check. I told them I was worried about my neighbors, that they seemed sick or disoriented. 2 officers went to the Henderson house. I watched from my window as Mark answered the door. They talked for a few minutes, then the officers stepped inside. They were in there for maybe 10 minutes. When they came out, they waved at me and drove away. I called the station. What did they say? Are the Hendersons okay? Ma'am, the family is fine. They're just tired from their camping trip. Officer Rodriguez said they seem perfectly normal, but they're not, Mom. If you continue making false reports, we'll have to cite you for misuse of emergency services. The next day, I saw Officer Rodriguez at the grocery store. I approached him, desperate. Please, you have to listen to me. Something is wrong with the Henderson family. Really wrong? He looked at me with the same blank expression I'd seen on the Hendersons. They're fine, he said in that same flat, emotionless voice. Everything is fine. Then he smiled, if you could call it a smile. His mouth stretched too wide, showing too many teeth. You should stop worrying about them, he said. You should worry about your own family. I started researching the campground Mark had mentioned. His grandfather's place, somewhere remote with no cell service. I couldn't find it. No matter how many searches I did, I couldn't find any campground that matched Jennifer's description. Then I found the old newspaper articles. 1987, family of 4 disappears. During camping trip, bodies never found. 1994. Search called off for missing family last seen heading to remote campground. 2003. Another family vanishes, police baffled by string of disappearances. 2011. Missing family returns after 3 weeks, unable to remember where they were. That last one had a photo. The family looked exactly like the Hendersons, looked now gray, hollow, wrong. The article said they'd been found wandering along a highway. confused and disoriented. They claimed they'd only been gone for a day, not 3 weeks. A follow-up article from a month later, tragedy strikes recently returned family, all 5 found dead in apparent murder-suicide. The autopsy report was sealed, but someone had leaked details to a true crime blogger. The bodies had been empty. That's how the coroner had described them: empty. No organs, no blood, just skin and bones that moved like they were alive until they didn't anymore. I showed David the articles. He finally believed me. "We need to leave," he said. Tonight, we pack up Sophie and we go. We started packing at 9 p.m. At 9:15, the doorbell rang. We froze. Through the window, I could see all 5 Hendersons standing on our porch. Perfectly still, perfectly synchronized. "Don't answer it," David whispered. The doorbell rang again and again and again. Then the knocking started. Not desperate or frantic, just methodical, rhythmic knocking that went on and on and on. Sophie started crying. "They want us to be like them. They want to make us wrong too." The knocking stopped. For a moment, there was just silence. Then we heard Sophie's voice, but Sophie was standing right next to me. "Mama, can you let me in? I'm scared out here." The voice came from the backyard. David went to look, and I grabbed his arm. "Don't, Daddy, I fell down. I'm hurt." It was Sophie's voice, perfect in every way, coming from our dark backyard. The real Sophie clung to me, sobbing silently. "Please, Mama, it's cold. I want to come inside." David pulled out his phone to call 911. No service. Both our phones, no service. "Let me in, let me in." "Let me in." The voice was still Sophie's, but it was coming from multiple places now: the backyard, the front porch, the side of the house. All around us, Sophie's voice begging to be let inside. Then we heard it, Jacob's voice. "Sophie, come out and play. I brought you something from the camping trip. I promised, remember." The real Sophie whimpered. "Don't listen to it, Mama. That's not Jacob. Jacob's gone. They're all gone. Those things just look like them. All night, they called to us, using our voices, our names, saying things only we should know. Sometimes it was the Hendersons. Sometimes it was other voices, neighbors, friends, Sophie's teachers. All of them outside, all of them begging to be let in. When the sun finally rose, they were gone. The Henderson house stood empty and silent across the street. We threw everything into the car and drove. We didn't stop until we were 3 states away. That was 6 months ago. We live in an apartment now, in the city. We don't talk to our neighbors. Sophie doesn't make friends at her new school. Because 2 weeks ago, David came home from a business trip. He looked tired, pale. He'd lost weight, and his movements seemed off, just slightly wrong. "How was the trip?" I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. "Fine," he said in a flat voice. Everything was fine. Sophie won't go near him. Last night, I heard him in her room, whispering, "Don't you want to come on a camping trip, Sophie? Just you and me. I know a perfect spot." And this morning, I found a photograph on our doorstep. It's the Henderson family standing in front of their house. They're smiling their 2 wide smiles, their black eyes staring at the camera. But there are 2 new people in the photo now. David is standing with them, that same blank expression on his face. And next to him, holding his hand, is a little girl who looks exactly like Sophie. The doorbell is ringing now. Sophie is sitting next to me, her hand in mine. But I can hear her voice outside, calling, "Mama. I forgot my key. Can you let me in? I'm looking at the front door." I'm looking at my husband, who's been standing perfectly still in the hallway for the past hour, not blinking, just smiling. I'm looking at my daughter, whose hand feels just a little too cold in mine. And I'm wondering, when did I stop being able to tell the difference? The doorbell rings again. "Let us in," they call in our voices. "We're your family. We just want to come home." Sophie squeezes my hand. Or something that looks like Sophie squeezes my hand. And I realize I can't remember exactly when we came back from our family camping trip last month. I can't remember the trip at all. The doorbell is ringing. I think I should answer it. I think we should all go camping again. It's such a perfect spot. No cell service, no other people, just us and nature. And the things that live there waiting. Always waiting for more families to come visit. For more families to bring back. The doorbell is ringing. I should answer it. After all, their family, aren't they? That's where our story ends tonight, ... or does it? Drop a comment below and tell me, would you have answered the door? What would you have done differently? Subscribe for more horror stories that'll make you question every shadow in your home. New nightmares posted soon. Until next time, ... keep your lights on.